Lowest Black, Hispanic, and Asian unemployment rates in American history, and we will do it again. We'll do it again. We're fighting for school choice, which really is the civil rights of all time in this country. Frankly, school choice is the civil rights statement of the year, of the decade, and probably beyond, because all children have to have access to quality education. A child's zip code in America should never determine their future, and that's what was happening. So we're very, very strong on school choice, and I hope everybody remembers that. And it's happening. It's already happened, but it's happening. We have tremendous opposition from people that know they shouldn't be opposing it. School choice. All children deserve equal opportunity because we are all made equal by God. So true. A great jobs market and thriving economy is probably the best thing that we can do to help the Black, Hispanic, Asian communities.
School choice. Apparently, that's the civil rights issue of the year. School choice. So when hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets, when support for Black Lives Matter surged to unprecedented levels, when localities across the nation began introducing policing reforms, when Democrats in Congress swiftly moved to introduce the Justice in Policing Act, all of that was well and good, but the real civil rights issue this year was school choice. Got it. Now, school choice refers to Trump and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's education policy of dumping funds into public school alternatives like charter schools, proposing as much as $1 billion from federal budgets. DeVos, for her part, hasn't been shy about her disdain for public education, calling public schools a, quote, dead end and a monopoly, while Trump has referred to public schools as part of the, quote, American carnage. Let me just say this about school choice. Diverting funding away from public schools into private and charter schools takes limited resources away from a source of education that more than 80% of American children rely on. And it's not like any kid can just decide to switch over to a charter school, because charter schools don't have to accept students they don't want to accept, and have frequently been accused of discrimination. In other words, our tax dollars would be funding education that not everyone can get, thereby choking off resources to public schools that would be left with the students not accepted by charter schools, creating a vicious cycle wherein the most underfunded schools also have the lowest performing students. And that's an argument that school choice advocates will then use to flaunt their success. They'll say, look how much better we're doing than public schools, but it's only because they're able to gut public school funding and cherry pick the students they want. Shocker that billionaire Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos's top priority in education is to help facilitate an elitist class of American kids. And that is the craziest part, because Trump thinks that school choice is the top civil rights issue of the year, and the people pushing for school choice are people like Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump. In other words, they think that the most consequential civil rights victory in America is for wealthy elites to be able to send their kids to charter school. They think the biggest civil rights movement in this country has been for rich people. To claim that they are out of touch, especially with what's happening around the country right now, would be the understatement of the century. Also, it's especially ironic that Trump says, quote, we are all made equal by God. Literally this week, the Trump administration was in court arguing that employers should have the right to fire LGBT Americans because of their sexual orientation. The Trump administration has stripped healthcare protections for trans Americans, they've ripped families apart that have lived in this country for decades, they've caged and demonized immigrant children. Trump came into office on the promise of banning Muslims from entering the US. He botched a pandemic response that ended up killing more than 118,000 Americans because he was concerned about his own talking points. Does that sound like someone who believes that all people are equal? That all people are treated the same? Because it sounds to me like Trump only cares about a small far-right base and himself. And by the way, this whole school choice rant was at a press conference where Trump attempted to market some half-baked executive order claiming that chokeholds by the police were being banned. Only what he failed to mention is they would only ban chokeholds except in what police can deem a life-threatening situation. And guess what? That just means they can claim any situation where they use a chokehold as a life-threatening situation. In other words, Trump's executive order isn't so much effective policy as a toothless photo op. Per usual. If he's interested in actual legislation, he should promote the Justice in Policing Act that's currently getting passed through the House with over 200 co-sponsors, which includes actual reforms like an end to qualified immunity, banning chokeholds, creating a national registry of misconduct, making lynching a federal crime, requiring body cameras, and limiting transfer of military equipment to police departments, among other things. But because those changes might actually have an impact, Trump would rather hold an all-for-show ceremony promoting an executive order that won't actually do anything. Because like everything else in this presidency, Trump will do nothing and then market it as if he has. If you like that video, please check out my brand new podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll cover the most important political stories of the week and interview major players in the world of politics. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out and subscribe now.